Censorship in the MegaMan series began with the very first game. Being released on the NES meant that Nintendo's draconian, family-friendly policy set its crosshairs on a certain iconic boss. The Yellow Devil would not be called this in early Western resources due to the religious devil part of their name, religion being a big target for Nintendo's infamous censorship during the 80s and 90s, so instead they were dubbed Rock Monster. Coincidentally, the MegaMan franchise is of course very much rock related, with it instead going by the name Rockman in Japan. The series would not see other forms of censorship for a very long time, but eventually titles would see edits made to sex, violence, and all sorts of other content deemed inappropriate. To begin with the Game Boy Advance's MegaMan Zero series. In Japan, most enemies let out a substance that resembles blood when attacked with certain weapons. This was completely removed from all 4 of the Western releases, and even when displayed in the background, as seen on the walls of the robot disposal center. However, there is still a slight bit of blood in the first game's intro, but even this has been censored when compared with the level of blood in the Japanese game. Now, the censorship to the Zero series does not end there. The DS's MegaMan Zero collection, which was the port of all the games bundled together, actually made further edits to dialogue referencing death. Words such as death and die were edited in the first 2 games, but this was done inconsistently, with a few occurrences being left. Although this was not the only time that Capcom went back and toned down dialogue from the older titles. Mega Man Anniversary Collection made a similar revision to Mega Man 7. During Shademan's stage, bass no longer says damn, but instead dawn. The rest of the censorship that has been made to the series is that which heavily affected the first Mega Man Legends title. The Legends games took the franchise staple action gameplay and put it into a 3D world backed with fully fledged RPG mechanics. With RPGs, more often than not, comes lots of side quests, and one of the game's quests involved you collecting this comic book in the West. But in Japan, it was instead the much more eye-catching Erotic magazine. The history behind this naughty item is a lot more notable than that though. You see, whilst the PS1 versions changed both the name and appearance, the N64 release left its original cover intact. Additionally, the much later PSP version, released only in Japan, would then also change the magazine to a comic book, perhaps due to the creation of the CERO rating system, which didn't exist during the earlier game's times. Also cut out of non-Japanese versions was the ability to mercilessly kick the numerous non-aggressive animals roaming the game's maps. You can kick the aggressive dogs found at the Old City in the Western versions, however this was also censored, as in Japan you are able to kick them multiple times. You could even shoot and kill the game's birds in the original version, whilst the overseas releases made them impervious to your gunfire. This animal cruelty feature even allowed for a pretty intuitive way of handling one section of the story. When Tron Bon is chased up a pole by Paprika, in Japan if you so wish, you can intervene by booting the animal to the other side of the map. In the other versions, your only option for saving her is to talk with the dog.